Here are some more videos from my ClassicComicsMan channel, which I'm closing down and transferring all the videos over here. Pretty soon I'll be done with this and back to regular vlogging, but I hope you enjoy these in the meanwhile.
Hello everyone, this is Steve talking at you from the ClassicComicsMan channel. That's my other channel. Thank you for stopping by and discovering it. This is the channel for fans of nostalgia, old comics, old movies, and old television shows. Who knows what we'll get into, but basically old, fun, cool stuff. Old small press comics and fanzines. Look, I want to show you something. Look at this. This is a trade paperback book with my face on it. Ta-da! As I looked like 20 years ago. Drawn by Larry Blake. Beautiful cover. He did a great job on that. It shows all my characters that I created that have appeared in my small press comics. This was a trade paperback, as I say. It was published by Sam Gafford a few years ago, and it reprints all the issues of the discussion zine that I published back in the 1980s, SKEET'S Fan Forum and Review. It was made up entirely of letters and discussion. Somebody would write a letter discussing anything they wanted to talk about, anything, from politics to religion to comic books to movies to whatever they wanted to talk about, and other people would respond with their own letters, which would appear in the next issue, and people would respond to their letters, and on and on and on, and it was continuing discussion in print form. And he just reprints it, just copied the actual pages, and it's just all text, and it's hundreds of pages. Here I'm on the back cover too. Ta-da! Reading one of the original fan forums. It was a long out of print, had a lot of subscribers. It was just a digest comic, digest size small press book. This was the first issue, which was free. I gave it out free to people. I drew the illo of Kong on the front. And I have all the original issues right here. Second issue, guy with an exploding head. Who drew that? I don't remember. It's been a while. And on and on. This is issue number 5 with Jeff Gaylor, hideous Batman drawing. And on and on and on. The last issue was number 11. There was an unpublished 12th issue that actually appeared online on my former website, which has been taken down thanks to MSN discontinuing their groups. But, maybe I'll get a new website going. Anyway, these letter and discussion zines, and by the way, that massive volume of fan form, that massive trade paperback, there were only like 20 copies ever printed. I think they had high hopes for the book. Sam Gafford had, but couldn't get people to order it because it was $20, so it was kind of high priced just to read reprinted fanzines. So I don't mind. I'm glad I got my copy, and I'm very honored and just thrilled that they did that for me. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. You're the greatest, man. Now. These letter and discussion zines are kind of rare these days because everybody's online discussing things, but it goes all the way back to the 60s. In the early fanzines, the letters, pages of fanzines were often the most entertaining parts. I mean, they have comic books and articles and things, but the letters columns were sometimes massive, went on for pages and pages and pages, and a lot of people got into some really interesting discussion. But there were, even then, fanzines like that, like fan forum forerunners of what I did, and one of them was Wipeout, published by Steve Shipley. I just happen to have a tattered copy of Wipeout number 4 from 1969, and this is all it was. It has, I think this drawing is by Is that by Carl Gafford? No, it's by Ed Romero. Artie Ed Romero. It's a drawing of Captain America right here. But there are letters in here from Greg Kishel, Gordon Matthews, and people like that who were around in small press comics and in fanzines back in those days. Here's another issue of Wipeout, number 3. This was published by Steve Shipley, or Stephen Mark Shipley, as he's been known at various times. And that's it. It was one sheet, two-sided, with a bunch of letters and very tiny type. So these type of discussion zines, like I say, because of the internet, everyone is discussing everything online, and so you're not likely to see a return to this type of a fanzine anytime soon, unfortunately. They were quite a lot of fun. It was good while it lasted, and at least we have the memories, and I have my copies and the reprints. And but before I end this, I want to show everybody. I published small press comics, did a lot of comics work for many years, and all the way back to 1969 when I ordered my very first fanzine, which was E.R. Beatum number 27 or 29 from Carl Cazadesis, whatever his name was, Kaz. They called him Kaz Cazadesis. Super Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, published a great fanzine dedicated to Edgar Rice Burroughs, and that was the first fanzine that I ever ordered. Immediately after that, and I was quite young at the time, like 12 years old or something, I decided I would publish my own Edgar Rice Burroughs fanzine. And you ever heard of a crud zine? That's something, a fanzine is so bad that it's basically crud. Okay, my very first fanzine was a crud, and here's the cover with my magnificent art from 1969, my drawing of Tarzan. And since it was the psychedelic era, I did a portrait of Edgar Rice Burroughs himself, and I made it all psychedelic. This was, of course, printed on the Spirit duplicator at my high school in Living Purple. A friend of mine, I only have 2 copies, and unfortunately the other copy that I have was defaced by my friend John. He's still my friend, even though he defaced this many years ago. He wrote on the cover, we're talking about like 12-year-old kids, okay? I got hairy leg. Anyway, little trip down memory lane. That's basically all I want to talk about today. I got some ideas for some upcoming videos for this channel, so I'll be seeing y'all real soon. Thank you for stopping by. Have a great day, and all the best. Hello everybody, this is Steve Keeter, and let's talk comics. I've been reading and collecting comics all my life, and even doing my own comics from time to time. I even did an issue of Mighty Mouse, by golly, and I had a huge collection of comic books at one time, and I sold them off in the 1970s because for some crazy reason at the time I thought that I needed money more than I needed that tremendous comics collection. And I did have a pretty huge comic collection. I mean, I had entire runs of comics from the Silver Age, just a lot of stuff that I don't even want to talk about. It makes me sick to think about it, but over the years I've reacquired some of this stuff. I still go to conventions, especially MegaCon here in Orlando, and here's a few samples of things that I've picked up that I actually owned when I was a child. Here's a copy of Batman number 156. Let me hold it up here so you can see it. Batman number 156. I read this story when I was a kid. Robin dies at dawn. In this story, Robin actually dies. He dies. Batman finds himself on another planet, a strange other planet, facing weird monsters and things, and Robin is killed. And it actually turns out to be a hallucination in the end. But it was, for me, it was especially for a DC comic in the early 1960s. This was quite dramatic and unusual. You know, and another interesting thing about this comic book is that it features a character, a little pint-sized character called Ant-Man. Ant-Man, and around the same time, of course, Marvel Comics came out with Ant-Man. Henry Pym, Ant-Man, Giant Man, he became later, and I'm not sure which one came out first, but it's very interesting. This particular Ant-Man turned out to be a criminal in the end. Ant-Man, or Giant Man, appeared in Tales to Astonish for a number of issues, done most magnificently by Jack Kirby. I've always thought Ant-Man was a fascinating character. I thought Henry Pym was a fascinating character, and Marvel discarded him too easily. They quit using the character. I don't know. They thought that, okay, if he's Ant-Man, he's too little, he can't be that powerful. Although over at DC they had the Atom and the Justice League, and you know, proof that a little pint-sized guy could do a lot of harm to the bad guys. And I thought that they discarded Ant-Man too easily. I always thought Ant-Man was more fascinating than Giant Man because he could go to worlds that Giant Man couldn't. I mean, Giant Man could exist in our world. He was really big, but Ant-Man could go to tiny little, almost not microscopic, but ant-sized worlds. He could go inside an anthill, and he could go places where other heroes couldn't. And Tales to Astonish was an astonishing book. I was also fascinated by, I think around issue number 60 of Tales to Astonish, they had Giant Man as the main feature, and they added the Incredible Hulk as a backup feature. The Hulk, drawn by Ditko at that time, Kirby's Hulk was more muscular, more heroic, and but still a tortured soul. And all through those early issues of Tales to Astonish, the Hulk suffered. He never could win the love of his life because he was Bruce Banner, and she was in love with Bruce Banner, and she didn't know that he was actually this uncontrollable monster, the Hulk. And her father was General Thunderbolt Ross, who was in pursuit constantly of the Hulk. Thought of the Hulk as a menace to society, which, if you stop and think about it, he was. I mean, he was tearing things up everywhere he went, and he was out of control. He was always in a rage. And this all culminated in issue number 69 of Tales to Astonish. Here's the cover. The Hulk was up against the leader. This guy with this big giant brain, who was also affected by gamma rays, the very things that turned the Hulk into a rampaging brute. He pursued the Hulk and tried to capture the Hulk, tried to make an ally of him. And in issue number 69 of Tales to Astonish, he and the Hulk met up for a final battle. And you know, I have this here. It's in plastic. But the interesting thing about this issue was, I thought as a kid, you know, I guess I don't know, how old was I? 7 or 8 years old when this thing came out, and everybody was after the Hulk. Everybody wanted to kill the Hulk. Major Talbot, here he is. There's Major Talbot, General Ross, and everything. And in the very end, the Hulk battled the leader in his underground lair, fighting, battling against him, and it was a huge battle. And at the very end, he was killed, or Bruce Banner was killed. It was one of the greatest climaxes to any comic book story I've ever read. In the final panels, you read, and I know this is blurry, but if you go to the final panel here, they find Bruce Banner's body underground. The soldiers had been, the army invaded the leader's lair. They shot the Hulk, but they actually killed Bruce Banner. And in the final battle, final panel, which you can't read right here, Major Talbot, with Brick Jones in shock beside us, says, "Gentlemen, the traitor is dead." And I thought that was the end of the series, but they brought it back. They brought the series back with the next issue. They got rid of Giant Man. They thought he was boring, so they replaced him with the Submariner in Tales to Astonish. And it was still a great book. And the Hulk came back somehow. Actually, he was Rick Jones brought Bruce Banner's body to their secret underground cavern, bombarded him with gamma rays, and he turned back into the Hulk. And for a time, he could live as the Hulk. But if he turned back to Bruce Banner, he had a bullet in his head, and the bullet would kill him. So it was a pretty interesting run of things. They eventually resolved that. Oh gosh, there was so much other stuff. I go back further with Tales to Astonish. One of the greatest Kirby covers of all time was when the Incredible Hulk and Giant Man, when the Incredible Hulk was introduced as a companion to Giant Man, look at that bold artwork with the Incredible Hulk leaning monstrously forward there. Kirby at his very best. The man was an incredible artist. He was the king of comics. There just has never been a better artist than Jack Kirby. Now, one of my favorite comics of all time that I read when I was a kid, about 1962 and 1963, was Superman issue number 162. And here it is, the imaginary story of Superman Red and Superman Blue. In this story, Superman is affected by a combination of kryptonites, and he becomes split into two different beings: Superman Red with the red costume, and Superman Blue with the blue costume. And between the two of them, their intellect is greatly increased, and also working together with these incredible superpowers, they eliminate all crime on Earth, all disease, they restore the planet Krypton, and there's no need for a Superman on Earth anymore, so they both retire, and they get married. Superman Blue gets married to Lana Lang. Superman Red gets married to Lois Lang, and Lois Lane, and Superman Red and Lois and their kids live on the planet Krypton, where they have no powers because there's a red sun. Superman Blue and Lois live on Earth, and even their kids have superpowers. And that was just one incredible story with Kurt Swan art and Kurt Schaffenberger's beautiful inks. Man, what a great comic. To this day, I treasure this copy that I own. And if you ever get a chance to read it, whether in a reprint or whatever, it's still an amazing fantasy. Yeah, you can say amazing fantasy. It reminds me of the first Spider-Man comic book, Amazing Fantasy number 15. I had a coverless copy of that for many, many years. No cover at all, and in the mid-'70s I sold it at a convention, coverless, for like $50. These days, even a coverless copy would be worth thousands of dollars. If you love comics, support comics. Go out to a comic shop, buy some comics, share them with your friends, spread the word. You know, it's the Silver Age was the Silver Age, the Golden Age was the Golden Age. Today, comics don't sell as well. All the great comic book heroes are in the movies, and there's a lot of good ones. And I can't wait to see the next Superman movie. I certainly enjoyed the last one, and the Spider-Man movies have totally rocked, as have the X-Men movies. And the spirit remains strong. It continues. And but check out the comics and support them and buy them. And a rebirth is imminent. Comics have been through ups and downs over the years, and it all depends on you. I mean, it's an art form that'll never die. You know, so comics rule. Support those, and this is Steve Keeter talking comics. That's all for now, folks. Hello, everyone. This is Steve. You know, I was just watching a video by Al the Doctor Who, and he talked about the great cartoon shows of the 1960s, the television cartoon shows, and this is something that I certainly remember, and I don't care if I'm revealing my age or whatever, who cares anymore, you know, but those were great days. He mentioned the Rough and Ready cartoon show, which I certainly remember, the Gary Anderson marionette shows like Supercar. Those were truly awesome, you know, for a child growing up in the 60s. There was so much cool stuff on TV. He mentioned Heckle and Jekyll. A lot of great stuff. I remember Beanie and Cecil, the little boy and his giant sea serpent friend Cecil, who occasionally would become Super Cecil. I was a fan of superhero comic books as a kid, reading Superman and Batman and Marvel and DC Comics, and there was a sea serpent on the cartoon show who once in a while donned a cape, and suddenly he was a superhero sea serpent. Kind of unique. I also remember the limited animation shows, animation series of the 60s, stuff like Space Angel and Clutch Cargo with Spinner and Paddlefoot. And the animation was so limited that the characters hardly moved at all. They were basically just like drawings that the only thing that would move would be their mouths, and often their mouths the cartoon mouths were substituted for real human lips. You can see these real human lips over these stationary, very one-dimensional cartoon images, which kind of added a strange, sort of a surreal effect to these cartoons. The Marvel superheroes first came to television during the 1960s in a series of cartoons featuring the Mighty Thor, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Submariner. I mean, all these different superheroes, and also Captain America, limited animation, where the character would be running across the, supposedly running across the picture, chasing the bad guy or whatever. He would actually, his arms, his legs, nothing would move. They would just move the figure across the picture as if it was on a stick or something. And the interesting thing about the Marvel superheroes cartoons of the 1960s was that they were actual panel-by-panel reproductions of the actual comic books from those days. Word by word, panel by panel reproductions, but they supposedly animated the panels, but in a very limited manner. Captain America would be jumping, and you would see Captain America go whoop like that, but just stationary. And you know, sometimes the mouth would move, sometimes an arm would move, or a hand, or something. Very strange, very strange. At that time, the costs of the type of animation that was being done in those days, in the pre-digital era, you know, the pre-computer animation era, well, it was all done by hand. So, but the cost became very much extremely high. So the cartoons began becoming more and more limited. Just couldn't pay those animators to do that really hard work. So, but in the 1960s, superheroes became really big in the 1960s, and you know, there was a Superman. There was a couple of different Superman cartoon series back then. I remember stuff like Frankenstein Jr. on Saturday mornings, a big giant Frankenstein flat top looking robot who had a little boy friend who would ride on his back or his shoulder as he would fly and battle against you know, whatever evil forces were out there. I remember there was a King Kong series, cartoon show. The very first episode, as I recall, aired on like a Friday night before the Saturday morning cartoon show debuted, and was pretty much an adaptation of the original movie King Kong from the 1930s, except that, you know, they had a little boy. There was always for every big monster, there was always a little boy who befriended him, and thus it was in this King Kong TV series, which was actually pretty good. Kong fought dinosaurs and got into all kinds of adventures. So yeah, that was cool. Just a lot of stuff in the 1960s, besides the Warner Brothers cartoons that were edited and aired on television every Saturday morning. And, you know, they were around in the 40s and 50s and everything. And the Saturday morning cartoon, Warner Brothers cartoons, some of them were new. They paired Bugs Bunny with the Roadrunner for their own show. But, you know, it was like, oh, but sure, blah, blah, blah. I forget the words. This is it, the night of nights, and oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it. You remember the cartoon characters all dancing across the stage, Foghorn, Leghorn, and Elmer Fudd, and all of them. And every Saturday morning, it was like the best cartoon show on TV. Some of it was new, most of it was edited from the 50s and 40s cartoons. It was always great, you know. And yeah. So we watched those every Saturday morning, and in those days, I mean, Saturday morning was paradise for kids our age back then. And Saturday morning, they still have a lot of cartoons and stuff, but man, those were the golden days. So anyway, I just wanted to say something about it and add my thoughts to what Al brought up. Hi Al, a great topic. Yeah, cartoons were great then. Cartoons are actually pretty great now. They're way improved thanks to the digital era. But yeah, the 60s were great days for young children watching cartoons, and they greatly influenced us. You can see it now in the movies being made, all the superhero movies and everything, directly inspired by the comic books and the cartoons of those days. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to add my thoughts, just a quick sort of off-the-cuff response. Yeah. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, this is Steve. I hear a plane going over. I wonder if you can hear that in the video. We'll find out soon. Hey, I'm talking at you from the ClassicComicsMan channel because I'm a fan of classic comics. I love old comic books. The new comic books don't quite do it for me, but I do like the new comic book movies. You know, like Iron Man, that was pretty darn awesome, and the Spider-Man movies, and even the Fantastic Four movies. My friend Larry Blake says not faithful to the comics, they don't work, and but I disagree. Okay, well, not totally faithful to the comics, but faithful enough, and the characters, they got the characters right. I think the cast is great, and those are awesome movies. I hope they make a third one. In the meantime, out of the blue, totally unexpected, my friend John up in North Carolina, my good old childhood friend John, sent me this, and I got it. I didn't expect it, and I just opened it, and it's 500 comic book villains with these great classic covers on the front. Just love it, and it's by Mike Conroy. On the back cover, you see Batman, the Penguin. You see one of the coolest things, the cover of X-Men #4 with Magneto and the Evil Mutants. Can you see that? Or is it blurry? In any case, he sent me this, and it's just you know, it's a coffee table book, and you know, it's got like you know, just every page is a different villain. The Living Laser from some early issue of Avengers. Around this time, Giant Man was being called Goliath, and he was stuck at a 10-foot size. I think so, anyway. Looks kind of bigger than that. Looks like he's about 25 foot there. That was Avengers #34. What else is in here? The Riddler. Interesting cover, because this is from the 1960s camp Batman era. And you see the Riddler there, Batman and Robin, and ha 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 ha. I wonder if Robin will ever be back in the movies. I think the movies have decided that Robin was just too cute and everything, and it's better for Batman to be solo. I kind of agree with that. I don't want to see Robin abandoned altogether, but Paul Gulacy, Catwoman. Check this out. Great artwork by Paul Gulacy, who started out as a second-rate Jim Steranko imitator. But I'll tell you what, that's a beautiful drawing. Anyway, cool book. Thanks, John. If you see this video, I love you. You're the greatest, and totally appreciate it. I was looking for my copy today of Art Spiegelman's MAUS. Actually, I don't have the original. I have the two graphic novels, the two books that have everything in it, or I had, but I think my daughter, Judy, took them off to college and wrote an essay on them or something. They were super awesome. As far as graphic novels go, you can't beat it. Those were just unbelievable. I still have, it's from the 80s, you know, the independent comics boom of the 1980s, when a lot of people just started publishing their own comics and managed to get some distribution, and it kind of ended towards the end of the 80s. The companies that would distribute the comics said, oh, these aren't real comics, or they don't have enough of a circulation, they don't have enough of a readership base, they're not going to make any money, and we're not going to help you guys promote them, which is, you know, too bad. And it ended, but it was kind of wild while it lasted. Everybody was doing comics. They were mostly with full color covers and black and white interiors. ELFQUEST. I used to have all the original ELFQUEST comics by Wendy and Richard Piney. Is it Piney or Piney? Anyway, in any case, Curse me for not knowing that. I'm sure most of you out there do know how to pronounce that, because these folks are living legends, and Wendy Piney's artwork is just incredible. Just incredible. I mean, I can go to any page. I'm flipping through because they're all such magnificent pages, but here's a page illustrated by Wendy Piney, and here you go. Beautiful. These comics came out in the 80s, kind of inspired by, I guess, Tolkien, you know, but they were just incredible, just magnificent. Had all the comics, sold them, got tight for money, you know, but I still have this reprint volume with commentaries by Andre Norton, Frank Thorne, C.C. Beck, who created Captain Marvel, and Marv Wolfman. This was ELFQUEST Book 1. Happily, I still have this. Anyway, I just wanted to stop by real quick and tell you and show you these guys. Really, I was prompted by a couple things. One, the fact that I haven't put up a video on the ClassicComicsMan channel in several weeks, and the other one, receiving this book from my friend John. You know, I've been doing some comics and stuff, but at a very kind of a reduced level. I haven't been doing as much comics work, you know, for the small press lately, because, you know, mostly I've been making videos and stuff. But in my own way, I'm still trying to promote small press and promote comics, and especially classic comics, which I love. And so here I am with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And where are my copies of MAUS? I'd really like to know. I have to call my daughter. In any case, if you're doing comics, keep on doing them. Yeah. If you love comics, keep on reading them. Support comics. Readership's been down, you know. I understand why, because modern comics aren't as good as the old comics. But there is hope. There are a lot of talented creators out there, artists and writers. Perhaps you yourself are writing and drawing comics, either, you know, just for your own amusement, or maybe on a professional level. And do what you can to go out there and promote things, and, you know, bring things back around. Let's bring let's bring the audience back to the comics. I think the audience is there, but I just think they're watching the movies. Okay, everybody have a great day. All the best. This is ClassicComicsMan signing out.